So while you're getting
There we
situated,
go.
yeah, there you go. Yep. So, the question, I mean, obviously, you know who Food Tribe is, but in a nutshell, Food Tribe is a 360 platform that connects good people to good food. That means that, we're a brand that's looking to work with food brands and restaurants and, help them have better conversations with their customers who are foodies, right?
Yep.
So for us, like, we're all about like providing value, not only to our foodie partners, like we want to equip them with like, offerings and coupons and deals. And also like tips and tricks, in terms of like, restaurants in LA and beyond, but also, best practices in terms of how to interact with those restaurants. At the same time, we're also looking to work with restaurant partners, help them, create, better experiences for their customers. And also, be able to capture the power of like online marketing, online media, as well as strategies in order to, better, allow them to deliver their products or deliver their food to their customers. So, you talked a little bit about, those nightmare guests and, those nightmare clients. So I would love to hear, I guess, and if you can kind of frame this from the direction of like a restaurant owner or a restaurant manager or someone that works in the hospitality space. It's like, if you're working with that guest that's less than ideal, what are some ways to kind of remove yourself from the relationship? And then also like next time around, how do you, kind of better qualify, your customers or work with your customers before, actually get them into that store for that terrible experience?
Okay. So you want me to start answering these now, or what's the?
You tell me, dude. I'm going because I mean it just sounded like that was something that I mean, yeah, I mean that you've had to deal with.
Yeah. Okay. So
if you thinking about it from some of the restaurant partners that you've worked with,
yeah.
can you think of anyone that's had like a nightmare client that you've given advice to or?
So I guess I can look at it from both angles. From the restaurant owner, one of the problems I see in the restaurant business is that the restaurant owners have a hard time identifying and fixing like online reviews with regards to they take them too personal.
Right.
And this is kind of funny because this came up really bad about 2 weeks ago. There's a restaurant in our area that I love. Go there all the time. I was actually there today for lunch with a business partner I have from a gym. And that same partner about a month ago sent me a text and said, "Hey, are you still working with him?" Because I worked with him for about 6 months a year ago, helping him get some stuff going. And I said, "No, why? What's up?" He's like, "Are you still friends?" I'm like, "Yeah, we talk all the time." He's like, "Dude's lost his mind." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Check his reviews." And so, this is a guy, to frame it, this is a guy who does not want to be in the restaurant business. He's got into it, I guess, had different aspirations of what was going to happen, and he got stuck in the restaurant business. And the easiest way to put it. Well, he had some reviews that were less than desirable that apparently they didn't deliver, or maybe what I see about half the reviews I see, probably more than half the reviews I see, aren't accurate. Consumers, unfortunately, in my mind, don't do a good job of, they'll go to a restaurant 10 times and the 10th time they have a bad experience. So that is a 1-star review. And it's like, come on, man, you've been here 9 other times and it's been great. Why am I now a terrible restaurant because of one thing? We all screw up. Well, this guy didn't really know how to handle that conversation. And I'm talking, I want you to imagine the worst possible response to a bad review. This guy was doing it.
Okay.
Like, you're an idiot. You're calling them cuss words. You need to not come back to our restaurant again. And I'm looking at these responses. I'm like, my God, he lose his mind. So I texted him. I said, "Hey, who's responding to your reviews? Did you hire a new manager?" And he responded back, "No, I didn't hire a new manager. I'm tired of dealing with people at this restaurant and these customers are terrible." I'm like, "So that's you responding?" He's like, "Yeah, why?" I said, "Dude, delete them." I said, "You need to stop answering reviews. You need to remove yourself." Right. And that's one thing I find I talk to business owners about, that we handle reviews for some clients. I don't like to do it, but sometimes we do. They take them too personal. And I understand, because you work your butt off and you have 100 customers come in the door one day and 98 of them are perfect. And then all of a sudden 2 of them, it goes wrong, or maybe it doesn't go wrong. They're just a bad customer. Right. And now all of a sudden they're bad mouthing you online and you think that review is going to be the end of the world. And they take it to heart. And I told this guy, I'm like, "Dude, number one, with regards to answering reviews, the customer is always right to some extent. You've got to play the game, get it offline. Because the last thing you want to do is have you don't want to be cussing people out on a Facebook review. I was surprised Facebook hadn't squashed it.
Right.
I said, but you look like the worst person in this situation, even though that person might be a bad, undesirable customer. I said, so you need to remove yourself and get in there. Like, because he asked me, what do I do now? I've already done it. I was like, well, if I'm you, delete the ones you can that don't have multiple responses to after you already said something stupid. And then the ones that you can't delete that have like where the person responded that you called them out, get in there and apologize. That, hey, you know what? I apologize. This was handled incorrectly. We had some management changes, even though the management's you. We had some changes in management. We made some bad decisions. We apologize. This isn't how we treat customers. Patch it up. I said, but you just need to figure how to do that. Now, that also goes both ways because I've done that. I've called customers out on reviews. Like when I see about once a month, a consumer will say, oh, I come to this restaurant every week, and this week it was terrible. The service was bad. The food was bad, and I'm never coming back. And so I'll comment and go, hey, I apologize. We apparently failed you today. That stinks. I know how important it is to deliver to our customers, but can I ask you a question? How often do you come to the restaurant? Oh, I've been every Tuesday for the past year. I had one that said that. And I said, so you're judging your entire review based off of this past experience and you're never coming back? Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. And so I phrased the response like, I don't know that that's fair based on the if you enjoyed the restaurant 51 times and one time they failed.
Right.
And I think a lot of as consumers, we do that. And, I try my best. I think I don't do it as much because I'm involved in the other side of it. And I was trying to explain this to a friend the other day who left a bad review somewhere. And I saw it and I was talking to him about it. He was like, well, this and that. And I said, dude, you don't realize the impact that negative review can have.
Right.
So that negative review, that business, they might have done something wrong. I said, there's nothing wrong with, why don't you ask the manager when you're there?
Right.
If you're in the restaurant, ask them, hey, I had
courage too, right? To have those conversations. I think it takes some courage as, the diner and, being able to clearly articulate like, hey, because it's always criticism is always something that people feel uncomfortable, right? Just because that's like direct, but, having those conversations in person and, there are ways to do it online that, that are able to, offer constructive criticism, but having the courage to, be direct and to also, look to improve things is the bigger thing, right? It's like oftentimes what people like to do is just like hide behind their computers, and that's not, that's not fixing anything.
But I'll say this: negative reviews can be squashed by one. And I say this simple. I don't work in the restaurant business, so I can't say that this is one simple thing, but to me it is because I've seen restaurants do it. Yeah. It's called table touches. I'm at a Panera Bread right now. I'm on their patio. It's a nice sunny day here in Kentucky. I was at a Panera Bread about 6 months ago, and I'm there with a business partner of mine from another business, and we're having lunch. And I have this Fuji apple chicken salad I get every week, and it's identical, and it's delicious. And I'm eating it, and he looks, he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, dude, what is this green stuff? And he's like, well, that's kale. And I'm like, okay, I get this every week the past like 2 years.
No kale in this.
There's like I've never seen this much. I've seen a little of this stuff, but it's usually iceberg and a little other lettuce and then whatever that was called, and kale.
Right.
And so it was disgusting to me. It wasn't what I was used to. And so the manager happened to be walking by and she stopped and she said, hey, how's your experience? Everything going good today? I said, well, actually it's not. She's like, what's going on? I said, well, what is this? And she looked at me and she goes, did you get the Fuji apple chicken salad? I said, yeah. She goes, oh man, somebody messed up. There's way too much kale in there. And I'm like, that's what I was thinking. So within literally a minute, I had a new salad. Well, actually, she asked me, I want a new salad. So just bring me maybe some iceberg. She brought me iceberg out. I mixed it in there. It's fine. And she came out and she goes, hey, I want to thank you because we have a person that came in today that's new on this line. Somebody called in. We had a staffing issue. And the person that did the salads, dog wanting in?
Yeah, my dogs are barking. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Hey, guys. Mailman's here.
Hopefully he's bringing some good mail. But she said this person that was working that station today mixed the lettuce wrong. That the mix I got was supposed to be like 25% kale, 25% this, 50% this. I got like 95% kale. And so what happened was, and I did a video on this, and the video's got like 25,000 views from like 6 months. And the reason it to me it caught my attention was that had that manager not made that table touch, not stopped by and said, hey, how's your meal? I wouldn't have complained. I would have just, maybe if I'm a normal consumer, I get online and leave them a review. I never come back to that restaurant, whatever. And that's what I see a lot of restaurants don't do. Like I've got a couple clients of mine that I dine at their place every week. And there's one restaurant, Quaker Steak and Lube in Florence, Bob Jacoby. Bob touches every table on his shift.
Yep.
I mean, literally walks by every table, shakes their hand, gets to know them, knows a lot of them by name. That's when you find out the problems. The problem is most restaurants, they're understaffed, they're not managed correctly, or the manager is just, maybe they don't understand that concept. But if they walked around and talked to every guest, the stuff they could learn and they could avoid would be huge, and that would avoid a lot of negative reviews.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I know that I'm jumping around a little bit, but I definitely want to give you the opportunity to. I mean, that was a great response, and I appreciate that. But certainly wanted to give you a little bit of a platform to just introduce yourself and talk about what makes you an expert, not only in online marketing, because I know that you're killing it there, but specifically as it relates to the restaurant industry. I know that you've got a ton of experience. So would love for you to just maybe give us a quick introduction.
Okay. Yeah. So name's Matt Plapp. I live in the Cincinnati area, Northern Kentucky. I've been in marketing for 20 years, right out of college into TV and radio advertising. Something that's unique about me was that in 99, myself, my dad, my brother opened a boat and RV dealership together. So I worked running the boat and RV dealership so we started from scratch and working in radio advertising sales. So it was unique because I was on both sides of it. We were actually buying advertising for our boat and RV store from the stations I worked at. So I got to see, buy and sell and understand the concept of spending money and seeing it not work or work.
Right.
And the part that was unique was back in 99 when we started our store, we actually started as a website. I didn't know anything about the internet. I bought a book on how to create an Adobe Page Build website. I built our website, outdoorconsignments.com. That grew from a website to a 1 location to a 3 location business. And I think in 17, we had our best year. We did 15.4 million in sales.
Wow.
And so we built it from scratch. But during that whole process, I won't give the story of that, but during that process, I learned about I learned about SEO. I learned about organic search engine marketing. I learned about paid advertising. I learned about chat rooms. What basically is social media today started off as discussion rooms back then. We have Facebook now with all these private groups that you're involved with restaurant food, like I'm a food truck one I'm in, and bass fishing and ATVs and camping, CrossFit. Back then it was chat rooms and discussion boards that you're on. And so I learned how to drive traffic from those. And in about 07, 08, we decided to get out of the boat and RV business. And a lot of my clients from when I was in radio reached out to me. And throughout the years, I had still done consulting because I got a lot of PR. And they wanted me to teach about the internet. And so I've been doing that since basically 08, full-time, myself, an agency. And by accident, the way I got into the restaurant world was about 7 years ago. I picked up two different clients that had 9 restaurants. And in working with those restaurants, they needed marketing help. And I knew Facebook, I knew Twitter, I knew email, I knew texting, and as things came along, YouTube and Instagram and the internet. And I helped them with their marketing from everything. I mean, at one point we were doing about $1.5 million a year in spending on radio, TV, billboards, the Reds, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Penguins, the Columbus Crew soccer team. So, I mean, I've bought and sold about every form of marketing. But what changed my path was it was in April of 2015, which is ironic because today I got the email for National Pretzel Day from this former client.
Okay.
And that's where this all started. Was we did a promotion with National Pretzel Day back in April of 2015, and it did 18 grand in sales across 3 locations, incremental increase over the prior year, and compared to other Sundays, all off of a promotion telling people to come in for National Pretzel Day and get a half price order of pretzels and beer cheese. And it drove 18 grand in sales. It was a huge promotion. That was when my clients and I saw, I knew the correlation between marketing and traffic, but That was one of the first times that my client said, holy crap, we did this. This many people came in and they spent this much money, and we could say an ROI. So then we started experimenting with other things. And that led me I was trying to find a product back in 2015 that I could plug into our social media marketing and our email marketing and say, hey, anytime somebody interacts with X, I want them to go down this path. I couldn't find it. And I'm not a developer. I know enough to be dangerous, but I couldn't find it. So I went out and started talking to people. And long story short, here we are 3 years later that we created it a couple years ago. And so we've got a digital platform that we help restaurants We train them on using it, or we do it for them. I actually got a book that comes out in late May. The title we're probably going to go with is "Don't 86 Your Sales."
Okay.
A restaurant here, a proven restaurant marketing program called the ROI Engine. But
Little restaurant humor in there.
Huh?
Little restaurant humor in there.
Yeah. So that's the working those title came from a restaurant owner. I put out there kind of a little crowdsourcing. Hey, I got this book I wrote, and it's basically a tutorial. It's 18 chapters, and it talks about growing your audience, building offers, and how to drive traffic driving promotions for that audience, and then actual funnel that we teach them through an online course. Every chapter, you go online, you do this module. Next chapter, you go online, do this module. By the time they're done with the book, which should take about 3 weeks as far as all the training and online, they've got a plug and play system for their restaurant that allows them to grow a database, drive sales, and track sales. And that's kind of how I got into this space. And so I deal with a lot of restaurants. I deal with all types of restaurants all over the United States.
That's awesome. I'm certainly, after we get done with this video, I plan on uploading this across some of Food Tribe's properties. So if you're interested, or if you'd be willing to, maybe give, access or anything like that to some of Food Tribe's audience, or even, if there's a link that you could share, regarding the ebook, I'm sure, our professionals, our foodies, our restaurant owners would love to check that out and, get some knowledge from you. Because that's one of the things that we're always kicking is growth, right? Growth is a philosophy that Food Tribe has, chosen to fully embrace, and it's something that we want all of our partners to embrace. It's not enough to run your business and have things just kind of operate as far as like the status quo is concerned, right? I think all of us should be interested in growth, and that's both like professional development and personal development, but then also making sure that we're growing with our clients and growing with our customers. And so, that's obviously one of the reasons why we wanted to talk to you, is because we know that growth is something that's super important to you and something that you advocate. So I guess, in terms of, the restaurant industry, we talk about, being able to leverage like digital marketing, online marketing channels in order to, acquire new customers. I'm just wondering, what are some other interesting trends that you've begun to recognize or to observe in the restaurant industry?
So from a marketing standpoint, so my big philosophy, and it's a term I've been using for about 8 years. I've been doing what I call webinar. I've been doing seminars since, I guess I did my first one in 2000. I guess it was the fall of 2008.
Okay.
And a term I coined back then because of my background in radio was create your own radio station. Was that everybody's enthralled with radio and TV. Hey, I'm going to buy commercial in this radio. I was actually at an event yesterday with a company called US Foods, which they supply food to restaurants nationwide. They had a social media event, and I went to it and was talking to some people there. And the one guy said, yeah, we spent $3,000 a month in radio and we never saw anything. But the reason they bought it was that they bought an audience. And the problem is, you look at an audience, like I'm in Cincinnati, there's 700 WLW, reaches 500,000 people every week. That's their big number they brag about. But if you break that down, like to this Panera Bread I'm sitting at, it reaches about 300 people. Right. Because you break it down to where people are at, if they're hungry, if they know the brand, if they're in the market, if they hear your commercial, if they're not on their cell phone, it's a couple hundred people that are going to hear your commercial that have the ability to walk in this Panera. Well, I've always argued that, you personally, can you reach more than 300 people right now through your social media platforms?
If I'm doing direct outreach.
Yeah, pretty easily. I'm sure you've got an email list. Like I've got an email list of 2,800 people. I've got a messenger list for myself of about 1,000 plus. I've got a social media following of about 10,000, which I can reach that people. And so I always challenge businesses, what are you doing to create your own radio station? What are you doing to grow your audience? Because if people that are going to respond to marketing are ones that know, like, and trust you. And if you build an audience of people that walk in your restaurant, those are the ones that know, like, and trust. They already know where you're at. If you give them a great experience, they already like you and they trust you. They're the easiest to get back. So quit spending money to get new people all the time and talk to people who don't know you and wasting, like, on a radio station. The reason they can charge you $200 a commercial, at least that's what it is here in Cincinnati, $125 to $200, is because they've cultivated an audience. They've got an audience that you don't have, and you want access to their audience. Well, if you don't cultivate your own audience, every month you've got to rent somebody else's audience. And so that's a big thing that I hammer home to restaurants. Today I was talking to a restaurant franchise It's got 103 locations. And we were talking to the marketing director, and we're doing a test in a couple of their stores. And I talked to her and I said, the biggest low-hanging fruit is everybody that walks by Patrick's, the guy that owns this location. I said, everybody that walks by Patrick's cash register. I said, because 99% of the people that walk in his restaurant are not a member of the program we have in place right now. We got about 1,200 people in this program. It's been in place for about 3 weeks. But 99% of people that come in his restaurant every day, more than likely, are not in our program. I said, on top of that, about 85%, according to the numbers, aren't in his current email or loyalty program. So like 8 out of 10 people that come up to the register to buy something, you don't have their info. They've already made the effort to come there. Get their info so you can invite them back. It's easier to get them if you have their info than if you don't. You're just going on guesswork. And so my comment was, you're talking about in Facebook Messenger. There's the ability to do it. Messenger's huge. If you're not using Messenger, businesses, you have to. Messenger has the ability to do a scan code. If you open up Facebook Messenger, go to the camera, and you hold the little center button, it pulls up a circle, and that's a code you can have for your business that if somebody were to scan that code, it can take them somewhere, like a QR code kind of.
Right.
And so we've created for his business where people will come in, and the cashier, and it's actually going to go in place in about 2 weeks, where the cashiers will, after the person pays, because we already got them, is, well, hey, Terrence, thanks for coming in today. Would you like a free sandwich for your next visit? Well, yeah. Are you a member of our VIP program? No, I'm not. Well, good. Do me a favor. You have Facebook Messenger on your phone. Yeah. Pull your phone out, scan this code. They scan that code. It takes them into an automated sequence where they subscribe. You now get their email address, and they get an offer for their next visit. And then now you can talk to them in Messenger and email in the future.
That's awesome.
And so the fact that, these restaurants, like I was talking to a restaurant the other day that averages 400 people a day come in their restaurant 7 days a week. That's 3,000 people a week almost. That if you're getting 3,000 people a week and you don't have the majority of their information, you got to find a way to bribe them to get their information. Like somebody say, oh, free sandwich. You know what? This guy's sandwiches, his food cost is $3. If you're telling me you don't think it's worth giving me a free sandwich for a $3 food cost to market to me more,
right,
then you're crazy. Then you don't realize the value of my email address and my Facebook Messenger subscription or my phone number in 6 months or a year.
I think that there are two things that, I think that I'm kind of extrapolating off of, your recommendation, which is, definitely you want your guests to know you, to like you. You also want to, create an audience, right? And you also want to engage with the guests that are already shopping. And I think that something that's important about that, and something that, I think our audience needs to understand, is that, number one, if you have a guest that's already willing to, purchase your food, purchase your goods, chances of them coming back are, already pretty strong, right? So if you can figure out a way to incentivize them or encourage them to come back more often, already you're making up that $3, cost of goods sold, that we offered on onset, just to, do that email capture in order to capture that information about them. But then also, and what's great about the platforms that we're talking about, whether it's Facebook or, primarily Facebook, even if it's Google, once that person has opted to, share their data with you, well, chances are you can take that information on some of these platforms that we're working with, and I start talking to some of their friends, right? And chances are, their friends are also more interested in shopping at your restaurant and coming back and engaging with you. And so that's just like another opportunity for you, or as a restaurant owner, to continue to, identify, new customers as well as audience members. You say that that's correct?
Oh, it's huge. I'll give you a great example. This happened this past weekend. So there's a restaurant that's, 2 exits from me right now called Walt Hitching Post. It's I'd say mid to high end. Like me, my mom, my dad, my wife, and my son ate there Saturday night. It was $250. Amazing food. Awesome. Always great service. Always a great atmosphere. Always amazing food. So it's literally a 5-star in my book across everything. They don't have my email address. They don't have my phone number. They don't have my they have no way of reaching me. It's my favorite restaurant. I might go there every 2 months. And the reason I only go there every 2 months is probably on accident as well, because I don't live near it. I don't drive by it ever. Like literally, there's not a time I'm ever on the street that it's on that I'm going to and from somewhere, which to me is what influences a lot of my decision of where we eat. Like when I drive home, I call it the honey get dinner phone call. Like I've got a client of mine that's in Florence, Kentucky. It's a great restaurant, Quaker Steak and Lube. I mentioned earlier, Bob runs it. It's an amazing. I've eaten there literally 1,000 times. I've had one bad meal.
Yeah. And
it's a great place. And not only because they're a client, because I love the food. The problem they've got is nobody drives by it. And so they have to depend on pulling people in with marketing. Well, Walt's the same way. And so the only time I ever go there is when it's an occasion. You know, like my dad called me. My dad reminds me of every anniversary, every birthday. It's like literally he's begging for me to do something for him. He calls me on Wednesday and he's like, hey, today is your mom and I's 38th anniversary. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll call and wish mom happy birthday, happy anniversary. I knew it was that. I hadn't had a chance to. Okay, well, cool. Well, what are you guys doing this weekend? I knew he was digging for it. And I'm like, you guys want to go to Walt's? He's like, yeah. So we went to Walt's. I treated him to dinner. And that's the only time I go. And so I actually I made a post from there when I was there. I'm like, hey, I put a post on Facebook and I said, hey, I tagged them, Walt's Itching Post. I would love for you to invite me here more often. If you had my contact information, you could, but you don't. If you want to find out how you can get more people like me on your list, reach out to me. I'll tell you for free. And no, they didn't. They didn't comment. They didn't respond. They didn't do anything. It's because they're not paying attention. They're a brand that is sitting on their hands. They've got a great recognition. It's been around forever. It went through a transition where it closed and a new owner bought it and took it over, and they've made it just amazing. But they aren't looking at it like in my case. If they had my information, if they had my email, they have my message description, they have my cell phone for texting, and they sent me a text every 2 weeks that said, what's up, Matt? And they had a picture of the ribs, I'd be there that night. No lie. I'd be like, ooh, Walt. So I'd call my wife because we eat out, literally. We eat out 6 nights a week. We cook at home once a week. Wow. 1 night a week, maybe 2 lunches a week, maybe 2 or 3 breakfasts. We eat out pretty much every meal. That's just how we are.
Yeah.
And if all they got to do is send me a message, then I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. That's a good idea. Let's go to Walt's. But the problem is they don't. And so if you look at that, that's why it kills me when businesses don't have the contact information of their patrons, because if they don't have mine, they don't have anybody. A lot of people's. They've never asked for it. I've looked. They can't get it. And they aren't doing anything to get it. And so if you look at that, you say, okay, here's just Matt Plapp. I'm going to guess there's probably 100 people just like me, at least, just like me, that if they were on there could be influenced more often. And so if they started influencing me with a lunch, I've never eaten lunch there ever. I'm going to guess they have lunch. I do business lunches 3 days a week.
Figuring out unique ways in order to encourage you to come back.
Yeah.
And doing it on the platforms that, I mean, how often are we spending our times on our phone, or how often are we on Facebook, searching cat videos, and you know what I mean? So it's
I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. Let me show you this picture. It's pretty funny. I took it there as a joke, but it was my dad and my son were on there. I'll try to hold it to the camera. You can see that they're on their phones.
Right. Yeah.
In the background, there's another dude on his phone.
Oh my! And
so I'm like, here I am at dinner. This 40-year-old trendy-looking dude behind me is on his phone. My son, who's 13, is on his phone. My dad, who's 71, is on his phone.
Yeah.
So that means you can reach every generation because I was on my damn phone as well. But I got my phone out taking pictures. I'm like, look at this. I'm at dinner with my dad, my son, and my wife. Everybody's on their phones.
Yeah.
And then there's in the background. But this screen is how you reach people. And if I was Walt and they sent me an email every 2 weeks, or a message on Facebook Messenger, or a text, or they targeted me through Facebook advertising, because I've been to their website, and if they had the pixel on their site and they were pixeling me and advertising to people who'd been to their website, they could reach me there too. They're not. Yeah. And if they did that, think if they got me in for dinner one more time a month and lunch one time a month.
Yeah.
That dinner was $250. It's not going to be cheaper because I always got people with us, and the lunch would cost at least $50. I'm sure there's $300 a month. There's $3,600 a year in sales. I'm going to guess there's 100 of me out there just like that.
Totally.
There's a $250,000. What is it? 100 times 3,000. There's $250,000 in sales.
Yeah.
That they're losing because they're not asking me to come by their business because they don't have my information. It just kills me, because that's all you have. Is you don't have data, you don't have anything.
And on the flip side of that, just to kind of come full circle with the earlier part of our conversation, just because you don't know anything about your customer, just because Waltz doesn't know anything about you, doesn't mean that you don't know everything about Waltz, right? And so what happens a lot of the time is, you have guests like you who maybe are anonymous, and those are the guys that are controlling the narrative, controlling the story about these restaurants online. So oftentimes what's happening is, like, they're getting hit on Yelp or Facebook reviews, or, any other review platform. And a lot of these partners are caught unaware, right? And so that's just, another reason, that it's super important that restaurant partners, they get more proactive in terms of like the conversations that they're looking to have with their audiences online, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So
big time, big time.
yeah. Well, yo, man, I know you got some stuff coming up pretty soon.
You're good. I don't got to be anywhere for a while. We're good.
Well, I think that I'm pretty good. I guess my only other question, we talked about, ways to identify new customers, talked about your background. I guess, I would love to hear from you. Obviously Food Tribe is a growth agency. We help our partners with everything from social media to content creation. But there's a ton of partners out there. And so I would just let, some general rules that you have for, restaurant partners. What sort of things do they need to, be on the lookout for before, considering to partner with any new agency?
So a restaurant, what should they look out for when they're going to look for a marketing company or some buying some stuff?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
what are some things to be aware of?
I'd say number one, don't buy into what I call vanity metrics.
Okay.
And vanity metrics are what a lot of people like me like to tout. Like, for example, I've got videos that I've gotten restaurants 50,000 views in a month. I've got campaigns that have gotten thousands of likes. I've got campaigns right now that in the past month have gotten 3,000 comments on their posts for restaurants.
Yeah.
None of that matters if I can't prove that they came into the restaurant, because at the end of the day, it's about putting butts in the chairs like I'm sitting in at a restaurant.
Right.
And if a marketing effort, you either got two types of marketing efforts. It's either branding or it's traffic driving. The problem is a lot of times those get skewed together. A lot of people don't know how to do traffic driving. Like, I was at the National Restaurant Association show the last couple of years, and every booth is touting, oh, we get customer engagement. Customer engagement's fine. I love it. But how do you get the conversation to a conversion?
Right.
And like, for example, that post I mentioned that we had that, made 3,000 comments in the past month. Anytime somebody commented, they went to a Facebook Messenger sequence, which was what the post was about, and they got an offer to come to the restaurant. So we can show in the one case where 700 people came in over the course of 4 weeks out of those 3,000.
Right.
And that's huge. So that's the big thing I tell people is that if you're going to engage somebody to help you, understand what you're paying them for and how you're going to measure what they're paying them for. Because the part that drives me crazy more than anything is if somebody hires me and says, hey, Matt, we're going to hire you and we need your help with getting video views for our page. That's all I talk about. That's all I sell them, which we don't do that a lot anymore. But if they were to hire us for that, and then in a month, well, it hasn't increased business. Well, that didn't come in the conversation.
Right.
You wanted us to get video views. Did you want people walking the door? And so understanding why you're engaging them. And that's a big problem because a lot of times it doesn't happen. Like, one thing we do with our clients, and I have a training program where I train agencies, and I've got a video I put in there recently of me presenting our program to a restaurant. And probably 30 times in that video, I reference our company's mission. Our only goal is to drive 500 new contacts per month into this database. And then our percentages show that this number will come in month 1, month 2, month 3. I do understand that this is not a short-term thing. This is a 12-month agreement. This is a 12-month, because I don't want to have a conversation in 60 days when somebody says, oh, this isn't working. Well, based on what we presented to you 60 days ago, it is working. But the problem is a lot of times marketers like me, we want to sell something. We want to get a new client. We're excited, and we skip steps, and we get a new company on board. And the same thing with the restaurant. The restaurant sees something that's new and shiny, and that this restaurant down the street's doing, it must be working. I'm going to do it, and they don't understand the goals of it. So whenever you spend $1, understand what that dollar is supposed to do. Is it supposed to generate 3? Is it supposed to generate brand awareness? I always say, there's some companies have money, like McDonald's, they can spend money on brand.
Right.
This Panera Bread with 20 locations since then, they probably got branding money. But Walt Hitching Post, one location restaurant, doesn't have branding money.
Right.
Every dollar they spend needs to have a purpose. And so as a restaurant marketer, you need to understand that when you hire somebody, and as a restaurant marketing salesperson, when somebody hires you, there needs to be an understanding of what the relationship is supposed to start at, what it's supposed to finish at, what the transition is if I fire you or if you fire me.
Yeah.
How does that go? Because I hear that all the time too. Hey, we hired this company and they did this for us, and then we fired them because we didn't like it, and they didn't give us our information. And they have our email list. And I'm like, well, that needs to be spelled out ahead of time. So I would say understand the relationship, understand where it's supposed to go, and understand what you're hoping to get out of the relationship, because that's a lot of times what happens.
Totally, man. This is awesome, Matt. I definitely appreciate that answer, man. And I think that a lot of people need to understand that. It's like, hey, you just want to get on Facebook? Well, why? Tell me what specifically is it about being on Facebook is important to you, as it relates to the business, right? You know, it's cool to have the new shiny toy, but if you don't know how to take care of the toy and keep it up, then it doesn't matter, right? And that means a lot of our partners waste a lot of their time and their energy on something that, you know, probably takes, I'm not going to say it takes, you know, 1 or 2 days in order to figure out a strategy, but if you give, you know, enough time to, you know, really kind of put some thought in, the more you're going to be able to get at it on the back end.
Yeah, and I've seen that a lot in my background with, I've worked in sports marketing, and I had a client of mine that I knew that was buying Bengals radio advertising from me.
Okay.
And that's a premium. It's a branding play. You're paying anywhere from $300 to $500 per commercial on a Sunday during a Bengals game. It's something that if you've got extra money in the budget that you do, but if you need to drive sales, you don't. Well, I never forget it. His name's Joe Stewart. We're sitting there, we're talking, and my sales manager was with me, and I could tell in Joe's eyes his business wasn't in a great place. I could just tell. I mean, I've been a business owner. I said, Joe, let me ask you, is this a stretch for you? What's business like right now? He's like, man, we're struggling. Cash flow is tough. We need to get sales. I said, okay, if you need sales, I've got a friend of mine that sells cable advertising. They have a zone that you are sitting in the middle of. I want you to not do this Bengals agreement. I want you to do cable advertising with him because my stuff's all fluffy. Mine is if you've already accomplished this, like a cell phone. If you look at the old cell phone, you had the little bar, the big bar, the big bar, big bar. Well, you can't get the big bar unless you do these little bars first. Well, I told him the same thing. I'm the big bar. You don't need me because if you're out of business in a year, it does neither one of us good.
Right.
So it was funny. My sales manager, I thought he was going to kill me. We left. He's like, what is that crap? Oh, you're an idiot. He was all mad about it because he wanted to sell. I'm like, dude, I care more about the relationship in that guy's business than I do a commission check tomorrow. Yep. Because if I make the right decision for him today and I help him, I'll always have him as a customer in the future. So that's a big thing too, is understanding that. That's what I told him. I said, you need to buy cable advertising because cable at that time, this is 15, 20 years ago, cable at that time where he was at would drive traffic.
Right.
And so he did. And I don't know how it turned out or how great or worse it did, but my business would have been a good play. And so a lot of times businesses get caught up with that. They get caught up with, I'm a Bengals fan. I'm sponsoring the Bengals. I'm going to do this. Well, that's great. If you've got the budget to do it, do it. Otherwise, the Bengals advertising sucks for driving traffic. It's not what it's for.
Right. Right. Totally. So understand that's just like any business though, right? And it's like any sort of marketing budget. It's like having an understanding of what your business goals are, and then you can reverse engineer your way to get there. Right. Yeah. And figure out how marketing can do that. This is great, man. Well, I certainly appreciate your time. Definitely look forward to having more conversations like this. You know, I know that there's a ton of stuff that you know, we would love to glean from you. The Food Tribe audience would love to glean from you. Certainly would like to talk a little bit more about like chatbots and stuff. I know that you're an expert there, but you know, I think this was a good, you know, kind of first conversation for us. And you know, unless there's anything burning that you wanted to share with the Food Tribe audience, you know, otherwise I'll let you go, and I'll look to connect with you another time.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only thing I'll leave them with is, you know, every day you should wake up from a marketing standpoint and ask yourself if every piece of marketing you're doing is helping you grab data.
Yep.
You know, there's a reason Facebook was in front of Congress a few weeks ago, because they've got data on everybody. Yeah. And that's data that you should try and get. And that, you know, so from a standpoint of your business, that's all you've got. The reason Matt Plapp is sitting here right now and I was able to launch my agency 10 years ago was because back in 98, 99, when I started in marketing, I had everybody's data. I still have the ACT database, which ACT, I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's an old CRM for salespeople from back in the 90s, early 2000s. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like Salesforce now.
Salesforce, yeah.
But I still have my data from every client, their fax number, email, phone number, birthday. The girl, Michelle, from bought Ohio Lotteries advertising on the radio. Her favorite ice cream was strawberry chip from Grader. I have all that. And when I launched my agency 10 years ago, I had still been using that data, and I started using it more to get out in front of the right people. It's no different than a restaurant. That you might be here at this Panera right now, but you might close this Panera and open up Joe's Coffee 2 blocks away in a year. And if you have the data from what you had, you can start quicker. If you've got a bad Monday, if you know that the Monday after Thanksgiving is going to suck, which it will, because the Monday after Thanksgiving, then what are you doing? Well, if you've got a huge database, invite them in, do a cool promotion, do something, because you still have an electric bill, you still have a water bill, you still have a mortgage. They don't just go, oh, hey, Terrence, sorry, it's the Monday after Thanksgiving. We're not going to charge you any of your bills today.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to data. You should have as much data on the people who know, like, and trust you as you can, so that you can get them back in more often, because I would personally like to eat at Walt's Hitching Post more often. The problem is they don't invite me.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate that, brother.
You're welcome.
This is great. All right. So we'll be in touch. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Cool. See you, man.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Bye.